So with the Super Bowl being played this Sunday in Santa Clara, the big storylines are Peyton Manning, the defenses, Cam Newton, and that's really about it. Is like who wins, obviously. But what I keep hearing is, especially with the media nowadays, you hear Cam Newton hates the media because people criticize him, and that's fair. Because all I see usually is, oh, Cam Newton dabbed from doing, or like at half at the 50-yard line, he dabs after touchdowns and all that stuff. And if you don't know what dab is, it's a dance move, and I mean, it's unique to him. He started it. It's kind of a bad thing because no one really understand what it's about, like what a dab is in different type of context. And I wouldn't advise kids to look that up or anything, but I kind of know because I've heard some of that stuff, and I've known, like, I kind of looked it up, and I'm like, what is this? And I know that like some of the rappers do that kind of thing, and it's kind of interesting. But or like the dance move is interesting, not the other part. But anyway, so you got Cam Newton dancing as a big storyline for the week, and I don't see why it should be. In my opinion, Cam Newton dancing is great for the NFL, and obviously it's hurt because a couple years ago when people were like, they're like, okay, so let me put a timeline out there, I guess would be the best way to do this. A couple years ago, about 10-15 probably, when Chad Ochocinco, Terrell Owens, like that kind of era when they're in their prime, with T.O. on the Eagles and Ochocinco on the Bengals, they had a huge thing, and Randy Moss as well when he was on the Vikings. But they had a huge thing where after every touchdown they'd do a celebration, and they'd have a huge elaborate dance. And Key and Peele made fun of it, and I thought that was a great thing that they did. I thought it was hilarious, but that's not the point. So, like I said, they were dancing it was probably about 10 years ago now, and they were doing that well before that too. But it started coming into light about 10 years ago because SportsCenter did a thing about it, just making fun of them, but they weren't making fun of it, but they were using it as a this is SportsCenter commercial, which I thought was pretty cool. And then you got these flashy guys and all that stuff. And then I think it was a couple years ago, I had probably about 5 or 6, maybe 7 or so, but a few years ago, the NFL said, no, don't dance after touchdowns anymore. And I don't really understand now. I didn't understand at the time, and I still don't now. That's where their branding of the No Fun League comes around. And for the last 5 or 6 years, they've had a huge kind of, I guess, like, ban on that. And they've been dropping down the hammer, like when Von Miller dances over someone when he gets a sack or what have you. And I don't think it's really right, because you got Cam Newton out here having fun, doing the Superman Cam when he first came into the league, doing the dab, doing whatever he does, and then you see people like, oh, that's disrespectful because you're taunting the opponent. And that kind of goes back to what I talked about last week, where people are getting into their safe space and being soft and all that stuff. And I don't think Cam Newton's soft. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying the fans are, where they're seeing him and they're getting offended by that. And that's not a good thing for the league, first off, just because of, like, because I personally like it. I think it's a great thing. And just because he's having fun out there, he's still playing the right way. It's not like he's out there just throwing shade at everyone. He's playing the right way still. He's not just doing it just to do it. He's doing it because he's at the top of the game right now. And it's good. It's a good thing. I think he does a lot of good stuff for the game. He's like, the one thing that I saw, it was a couple of weeks ago. I have two different things. There was a bigger deal a couple weeks ago, but not as big of a deal now. But someone made it a big deal that he was giving footballs to kids in the stands, and like I don't really see why that's a big problem. Like everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, he's doing it. He's giving footballs to kids. That's so disrespectful or whatever." And I sit there, I'm like, "Why? He's making that kid's day probably." Like if I'm a younger kid that lives in Carolina, or well, let me turn that around. So I live in Nebraska. Well, I lived in Colorado before, and he's like, so say I went to a football game and it's my first football game ever, and let's say this was a couple years ago when Jake Plummer was really young, or was still in the league and stuff. He was the big name. So what would you say? Or well, I would start screaming if like Jake Plummer came up and gave me the ball from the game kind of thing. Like that's a kid's dream to get a game ball and all that stuff. That just makes their day, makes their year, makes their life, whatever. And that's just a great thing because like the kids love it. It's great for them. It makes Cam look really good. And NFL, well, I don't know if the NFL cracked down on it, but I know the fans are like, "Hey, this isn't good for the game." And I'm like, I heard about him like, why? He's giving a ball, making a kid's day. And that's the thing I don't kind of get. I understand there was another thing. It was after, I want to say after the Steelers won or after someone else, or the Steelers lost, I should say. Someone lost in Carolina. And so these fans were like flying their flag, the opposing team's flag. Cam Newton came up, ripped their flag out of their hands and threw it away. And I don't, like everyone like made a big deal about it. Oh, he took their flag, all that stuff. I understand that. Yeah, it's mean to take someone's flag, and especially the opposing team, and just throw it away and stuff. But he's also like trying to make a statement. He's trying to say, this is our house, don't be bringing that stuff in here, and trying to like make fun of me. You don't know what that guy was saying. He could have been like, oh, we're better than you kind of thing. We've done it longer, whatever. But you don't know the whole backstory there. And then, I mean, that's kind of disrespectful in my opinion, but it's still, like, I still don't mind him doing that just because he's saying, hey, I'm protecting my house, don't be bringing in your stuff here. I mean, the letter was uncalled for and all that stuff, but it's still not a bad thing. And I'm going to wrap it up with like I said, the dancing and all that stuff, but I don't see why this is such a bad thing for the NFL. If they're trying to transition, unwillingly or not, to a big athletic quarterback, you got to have some charisma and some swagger and all this other stuff, because if you think about it, you got Cam Newton, the big, he's 6'6", like 260, I think. I don't remember exactly. He's a big guy. And you got Russell Wilson, 5'11", I think he's like 220, 225. Super athletic, and they're kind of polar opposites. Russell Wilson's not really charismatic or outgoing to the fans, at least, and Cam Newton really doesn't care. He's the guy that everyone wants to be. It's like Cam, where Russell Wilson is like not the outspoken guy, and that's kind of where the rivalry comes from. But I don't see how the NFL is trying to crack down on him dancing and stuff. It's just bad. It's just a bad look for the NFL completely, I think, at least in my opinion. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it should be. I think they should bring back the touchdown dances, bring back the dancing and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a little showboaty. I think it's just people being sore fans when they lose. Sore losers, I should say. But it's still not a bad thing. Like, it's still making you want to watch him just to criticize him, and that's how the NFL is going to get their money. So I don't know why. I don't get it. I don't see why people do it. Why they criticize him, I should say. But I think it's just not a big deal, and I don't know why people are making a big deal about it. So, opinion on this at least. So, I think Cam Newton should keep dancing and all that stuff. Do it out wide open, get some ratings for the NFL.